Hello, this is actually the last video of chapter 9. So we're going to discuss optimism. The optimist view of the meaning of life is simply this. Life, in some sense, does have meaning. Life is not meaningless. The meaning of life can be external or internal. Internal meaning is meaning that comes from ourselves, from the inside of people. We give meaning to our own lives by the goals we set, the dreams we set and realize in life. So meaning does not come from the sky, does not come from anything outside of us. We give meaning to life. Subjectivists say meaning is something you create. Meaning is something we create with our choices. Let's say the goal of your life is to become a nurse or a poet, a pharmacist, an astronomer, and have a family, travel the world, publish a book, buy a house. If you've done all that, then you give meaning to your own life. You create your own meaning. So your strongest desires, goals, aspirations, if you achieve them, you create meaning to your life. So again, meaning doesn't come from the sky, from a god, from history, from your ancestors, from anything. Meaning is something you create through your everyday choices. Okay. Then some say about the meaning of life is external. That is, the meaning of life comes from outside of us. Usually, this is a religious way of seeing things. The meaning of life comes from God. Even if you've achieved every single goal of your life, but you're going to suffer and die. Your children will also suffer and die. The entire planet will disappear one day. So we were made for God. St. Augustine famously said, our hearts are restless. Our hearts are restless until we find rest in God. So God is the only one that can save us from sin, from chaos, from destruction, from death. So there's a transcendent source of meaning, again, meaning that comes from God. And to some extent, this will sound strange, every desire is a desire for God. If you ask every single person in the world, what do you really want in life? Few people will say power, power. Most people will say, I want happiness, I want love. So happiness, God, bliss, love, grace, they're just different words for the same thing. If I smoke weed, marijuana, I do it because I believe it will make me happy. If I'm looking for a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a wife, husband, because I believe the person will contribute to my happiness. If I go to a prostitute, I go there because I want happiness, pleasure. So likewise, the person who goes to church, the person who prays, the person of faith, is also looking for the same thing, happiness. St. Augustine again famously said that the man who goes to the temple, the church, and the man who goes to the brothel, both of them are looking for the same thing. So without us knowing it, what we truly want in life is not really power, money, or fame, We think we want those things. We want peace of mind, we want happiness, we want bliss, we want grace, we want love from God. So God is the only one that can truly satisfy the desires of our hearts. So there's this void, this emptiness in the hearts of many, many people. And God is the only one that can fill this void. So external meaning is meaning that comes from outside, meaning that comes from God. Life is meaningful because life is part of God's plan. So a life that is meaningful is a life that is in sync, aligned with the will of God. So the goal of your life, one goal of your life, is to align your desire, your will, with the will of God. And God means truth and beauty, goodness. Then be always on the side of what is true, what is good, and what is beautiful. Now, one objection to this is that, well, okay, if the meaning of life comes from God, why did God even make us? God was happy before I was made, before the butterflies were made, before everything was made. So what do I add to God? What do I contribute? Would God be sad if the world didn't exist, if I didn't exist? So why did God even make us? Why? It seems this view is saying, uh, yes, life has meaning, but it's the meaning that God gave it. But I want to give it my own meaning, not somebody else's meaning, you see. So this view seems to be saying again, if this life has meaning, it's God's meaning because God made it with a plan. But see, not my plan, God's plan. So should the meaning of God become my meaning? Should God's plan become my plan? What if I disagree? What if I have, say, different plans? So again, let's go back into the question, why did God make us? To worship? It seems petty. To sing songs? I don't even know how to sing myself. So what's the point? So not just us, what is the point of the creation of the universe itself? Notice if God is all powerful, all knowing, all loving, God could simply replace everything with a new creation. What does God want? What does God desire? Notice if God has everything, because God is all powerful, this means everything is for God. God can't lose anything. God can't gain anything. God can never fail. God cannot have a dream and then God somehow failed. So what is the plan, the desire, the goal God has for us? As a good Christian, when I go to church, they say, well, eventually we'll go to heaven. Of course, we don't really know all the answers, and then God eventually will reveal some of those mysteries to us. So you see, that's where faith comes along. Because if you try to go with logical, rational explanation, it doesn't make sense. Again, why did God make me? All the unborn children who never sees the the sunset, who never experience love and food and music. What happens? What is the meaning of their lives? See, some children survive just for a few days, a few weeks. Some die in agony and pain. So, if my life has meaning, God has a plan for me, is it simply me? Is it simply Human beings? How about the other life forms? The butterflies, the birds, the lions, the tigers, the flowers. How about the rest of the creation of the world? What is the purpose of creation? One strange answer is that God simply took pleasure. God simply delighted in creating. But God didn't create for any reason. The same way a great poet may simply have joy in creation, he creates just because. God created just because. Because God Himself cannot have a plan. Again, what is the plan of God? I have plans for the future because I don't know the future. But see, God already knows the future. My plans can fail, you see. But God's plans, not only God can't have plans, God can't fail if He had plans, you see. Then you find this strange idea by some people. Some people believe, well, God can't know Himself unless there's a wall. The world is like a mirror God is placing in front of His face so God can know Himself. Because if there's only God, God is one, there's nothing else for God to know because there's just God. See? So there has to be something that is not God, something different from God, and that's the universe. So God made the world in order to better know Himself. What does that mean? What do you mean God doesn't know Himself? I thought God has all knowledge, say, all wisdom. You say, what does that really mean? I don't know. So even if God exists, God made us with a specific plan, purpose, meaning. This would be His purpose, His meaning, His plan, not mine. Or I could just agree with His plan, with His purpose, if I see them as a good plan, good purpose, if I understand them. And sometimes it's really, really hard to explain what the purpose, what the plan, what the vision of God is for us. Some would say the goal of life is to eventually see the face of God. Some says, well, the meaning of life is to simply create. This is one of the things that make us different from every other life forms. We create new things. Whether you create beauty or monsters, you create. Everybody is a creator. Again, whether you create good or bad. Some say that the meaning of life is to experience duality. Duality, again, two things. God is one. So God wanted in something else to make it two. So God and non-God. Some say you find meaning in life and search for knowledge, understanding reality, having family, caring, loving, giving love and receiving love, creating music, poetry, religious practices, and friendship and family, and so forth. And then I encountered this strange idea. Well, I'm not really strange. I don't believe that. I've doubt about it myself. Some people believe the goal of life is for you to wake up. The word Buddha means awakened one. The goal of life is for you to become somebody like Jesus Christ, like Buddha. Those people, they woke up. They knew who they were. This means all of us, we're simply sleeping in life. We don't really know what we are. If you woke up, you realize you are God. To put it differently, God is you. You are the one who built, constructed every atom, every cell, every molecule in your body. But you forgot how you did it. You don't know how you did it. If I ask you to open and close your hand, notice quickly, easily you can do it. But notice if I ask you to explain how exactly did you open and close your hand, it's hard to explain. So you can do things without you knowing how you do them. Likewise, you made yourself. You built your body, all the molecules, all the cells, all the organs, all the tissues. You don't know how. Not only that, if you're God, if God is you, you made everything else. You made the sun, the moon, the stars. You are the love that moves everything. The same power, the same love that moves the galaxy, that moves all the planets, the seasons. It is the same force, it's the same love that is in you, that is moving your life. But you don't really know what that is. You're not conscious of it. You can have thought about it. You can think about it, but you're not conscious of this thing. So this means we're all sleeping in life. The goal of life is for you to simply wake up and to see what you are. Then if you realize your divine nature, you are divine, then you can inspire others. You can open their eyes. This will become the greatest goal of your life. Open their eyes so they can know who they are too. Some people believe the goal of life is pleasure. Hedonism. Good is pleasure. This is false. Notice the same way suffering can drag people down, pleasure, happiness can also drag you down. So you could never become too close, attached to either suffering or pleasure or happiness. Either one of them can drag you down. Also, we all know pleasure gives rise. Pleasure also creates pain. So life can't be really about just pleasure. Life is too profound. There's too much pain, too much suffering. There's evil in it at every level. To simply say, well, it's just about pleasure. And we know we sacrifice pleasure sometime. Because there are things, even though they don't give us pleasure, we value them way more than pleasure. All the nurses nowadays are risking their lives, fighting to save lives during this pandemic. Does this give them pleasure? No. Is it meaningful? Yes. Doctors Without Borders working. Does this give them pleasure? No. Is it meaningful? Yes. During World War II, there was a man in the concentration camps. The Nazis were about to kill him. In fact, they were going to starve them to death for 2 weeks. He began to yell and scream, my wife, my children, my children. He was married with children. There was a priest who heard him crying, yelling, screaming, my wife, my children, my wife, my children. The priest asked the Nazis, Could I die for him instead? Can I switch place with him? They agree. They starved them for 2 weeks. Everybody dies. At the last minute, the priest was still on his knees praying. They gave him a lethal injection. He died. And then sometime after, the people were free from the concentration camps, the man returned to his family and his children. Was it about pleasure? Did the priest do it because he wanted pleasure? Without water and food for 2 weeks, after that they gave him a lethal injection. He died. What he did was brave and meaningful, but it gave him no pleasure. So this is why I say life is so mysterious, so profound, so beautiful, so mysterious, but also so malevolent. There's so much in it. You can't reduce it to simply pleasure. Whatever the goal of life is, as I said in the last lecture, we may not know. Maybe the way our minds are built, we're not wise enough to know. The same way the flowers, the rivers, the moon, the sun, the trees, the plants, they don't really know. They can't know what the goal of existence is. But we simply have to live life as if life has meaning, as if everything we do is meaningful. And notice again, we live life, we treat people as if they matter. If you believe life has no meaning, then meaninglessness, you see, has no meaning. It becomes a contradiction. If life has no meaning, if life is meaningless, then meaninglessness also is meaningless, you see. So we simply have to get up every day and go on living as if what we do today matters. It matters not just for today, but next week and all the way into eternity. Thanks for watching.